Intuition nutrition, the second part of the video. The waves have gotten up, and boy, it's getting choppy out there, sitting here on the beach. I'd like to talk to you about how you can connect to your intuition. And I was speaking about your senses. I was talking about how information comes through your different senses. So sometimes you'll notice that when you meet somebody and you come closer to them, you'll start to feel things that are at times illogical. Have you ever noticed sometimes how you'll get a pain if you get near somebody, that you'll get a sharp or a dull pain somewhere in your body, and you'll think, of course, we all automatically think it's to do with our own experience, but what has happened is we may be connecting to them and feeling something of what's going on in them. Now, in my own experience, for me to be able to experience it in my body, it also has a resonance within me, but it doesn't mean it's not material that's useful to potentially offer someone else. And so I'm trying to think, like I'll be talking to people, and sometimes I'll get a sense, especially in the sessions that I do, I'll say things like, I feel a tightness around your heart, or there's like a kind of pressure on your throat, and I'll get a sense of what that means, So for the throat, it's often something to do with communication, not necessarily. The heart can be, well, that's obvious actually, I think, what the heart holds. So, it can come to you through physical sensations like that. So be receptive to it and ask yourself where it's coming from. If you trust the first answer you get, then actually you'll find that it's accurate. So physical sensations are another way. What can you do to increase that? Become sensitive to your body. Become sensitive to what's normal for you. Become sensitive to how you're feeling. Ask yourself whenever you're feeling something physically, what's in this for me? What is this trying to tell me? And you'll often find that there is a message in that. So that's another way. It's all about sensitizing yourself, actually, the entire process. I'm just looking at these waves, and I think I'm far enough back not to be washed out into the ocean. Okay, so that's the physical sensations and the thoughts that come through. So what I get around other people, I get a lot of information around other people. As somebody who's empathic and obviously intuitive, there is a flood of information actually around other people. What I've learned to do is to just trust it. And what's really interesting and very validating is if it does happen to you like that you get that kind of information, and maybe you feel that you want to offer that to somebody you're in contact with, that you're communicating with, watch their feedback. And I think that for you will give you enough sense of if you're on the right track. Anywhere we hold need is how we cloud intuition. So like I said earlier in the previous video, it's about sort of clearing the glass. So you need to be aware of where your own ego gets in the way of being able to hear. If you've got some sort of investment in an outcome, some sort of expectation, some fear, any kind of need at all, any of those denser sort of emotions will get in the way of you being able to receive clear information. I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day, and this is probably a good example of intuition, and we were talking about an upcoming house move of mine that it's been pending for a while. I've been looking since November, actually, and I'm looking for the right place, so I haven't found it yet. And so speaking to a friend of mine, and he's very interested in, it's a kind of dowsing that he does. It's a sort of way of determining the truth of certain information and measuring it, actually. So, it's very interesting, and I'm not going to profess to be able to describe it to you specifically. It's not my discipline, but nevertheless, it's really, really interesting. And he was testing out his newly acquired skills, and he's very intuitive anyway. He doesn't even need this, but he likes it. He's intrigued by it. So I asked him, I said, when do you think, which month, when do you think it's going to be happening? When do you think I'll move? And so he went very quiet to kind of do a sort of internal process of connecting to me and connecting to the question. And while he was doing that, I found myself thinking, well, you can do this too. So what's there for me? What do I think? So what I did was I just saw a kind of calendar in my mind, and I saw January, which had already passed. And just as a test, I said to myself, okay, January. And in my head, I heard, something I won't repeat exactly. It was a little bit too blunt, perhaps, but are you joking? So then February, which obviously we're in, and with February, I just felt like a very low, almost nil response. What I look for, what I'm sensing and seeing and feeling is like an energy around something. And I can't explain that feeling, but I'm just drawn to it. In the same way that when you really like someone, you're sort of drawn to be close to them. It's kind of the same thing in a way. So February, there was nothing there. March, it felt a little stronger, but not strong. It didn't feel quite right. And then when I hit April, I felt this, how can I describe it? It wasn't light exactly, but a lot of energy. I felt very pulled to it. I felt a yes internally, yes. It felt like the right month. And then I hit May in my mind, and it was like, that's it. Not yes, not no, just nothing remarkable. And I didn't go any further than that. And then I thought to myself, right, I'm going to say to my friend when he, starts to speak, because his eyes were closed and he was concentrating, I'm going to say to him, oh, before you say anything, I got April, just to sort of test and see where we were. But he spoke before I had the chance. He opened his eyes and he said, April. And so it was funny, actually, for me, and validating for both of us, no doubt. I mean, we're very connected to each other, but we're also used to using our intuition. So that's one way you can do it about events. If you want to test it, ask yourself a question, and then just gradually sensitize yourself to where the energy is in something. And the only way you're going to do that is by trying it. So that's something else you can do. The other thing you can do is pick up photographs or look at books where you can see the eyes, especially of somebody, although it's not all in the eyes, as people say. But look at a photograph and see if you don't know that person, see what sort of information that you can pick up about them. And it's really good to do this when somebody shows you a photo of somebody you don't know, because somebody they know, and maybe they can even verify this afterward. If you say to them, okay, don't tell me anything, but let me just see what I can pick up, and trust it. No matter how crazy it seems to you, just speak and say it and allow it and watch what happens. It's really revealing. And when I find that when I connect to faces, I don't know that I don't need to see the person. I can connect to people through other people sometimes too, that are connected to the person. So like family members of someone or that I'm speaking to or whatever. They don't have to be there. In fact, none of them have to be there. But it helps to have a point to fix on. So photograph is a tangible thing that you can work with. The same is true of objects. There's a lot of energy, resonance in objects, and you can kind of read the signature that's been left behind of the people that have used them and handled them. You can feel a great deal from that. The first time I ever discovered I could do this, a friend had given me a photograph of somebody he'd known in his youth and it meant a lot to him. And honestly, I was as surprised as he was when I heard his reaction, because to me it was like, yeah, well, of course, it was just like reading. I know how to read, you know how to read, we can all read. That's how it was. It was as simple as that. I started talking about the person in the photo, and I said a lot of things, and he looked shocked. He looked really amazed. And then I realized that I was doing something that he found unusual. So photographs too. What else? Like any other muscle, you need to use this. You need to exercise this to become sensitive. So just open up to the possibilities of using this in your everyday life, and you're going to find it makes a huge difference. And it gives you a lot of, I don't want to use the word confidence. That word is very misleading, but just a connection to yourself, a profound connection. So these are some things that you can do. This is the nutrition for intuition. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. And I do run courses on this subject. I'm not advertising that because I do them in my own city, and what am I trying to say? So I do that on an ad hoc basis. But if you're curious to know more, by all means write to me and I'm happy to share information with you.